Hello everybody, and welcome to our new games preview tonight. I am joined by Kat.
Yo!
Who is also not on the screen. The only thing on the screen is this beautiful game of Phoenix Syndicate. One of our upcoming games that will be on Kickstarter this fall. In fact, you can see from the title up there that it'll be on Kickstarter on September 20th. So tonight we're going to be showing off the games that we brought to Gen Con that many of you did not have a chance to see because you were not at Gen Con or were at Gen Con doing other things that were obviously less important than our games.
The Fools.
The Fools! So in addition to this live Twitch broadcast, we are putting this onto YouTube so people can watch because, as it turns out, not everybody wants to sit around at 7 o'clock on a beautiful Thursday night.
It is really nice outside.
It's true. So, yes. If you are here and have questions, feel free to ask us. We also have Alana here.
Hi.
Hello,
How's
Alana.
everyone doing? Hello.
Yay.
And she's going to be monitoring the chat during this event. She's not in the room. She's in New York. It's far away.
How do they know that we are not also in New York?
They don't.
It's true.
Bum, bum, bum.
Oh. But it's quiet right now in your room, so now I know you're not.
No.
Oh.
Fair.
Oh, that was a bus.
Oh, there you go. Well, yeah, maybe it could go either way now.
That's something. So anyways, this game here, which we have helpfully set up on the table first, because it is the most elaborate of all of our games to show off, is Phoenix Syndicate.
Yay.
Phoenix Syndicate is a game that has been in development for approximately ever. In fact, many of the people who will be playing Phoenix Syndicate will be younger than the game's development tree,
Oh,
which is...
God.
But it's worth it, because it's a good game.
Yeah, no, when I see 7 or 8-year-olds playing We Didn't Playtest This, I'm like, uh-oh, they're younger than the game. Oh, no.
Oh.
So yeah,
Good
Phoenix
luck,
Syndicate
Peach
has been on Kickstarter before, briefly, and it wasn't ready yet. But now it is ready, and it is awesome, and all the time we've spent on it over the past forever, I think is totally worth it.
Oh, yeah.
So the basic idea of Phoenix Syndicate is that we are each criminal organizations spanning our network of agents across the galaxy. Here's a galaxy. It's very nice. It's a little bit glary, but what are you going to do? Each of these tiles, which you can see in the special zoomed-in area over here, depicts a different system and has these nice little costy bits of how to get from one place to another. And the board is modular, so every time you set it up, you're going to wind up with different connections between different worlds and a different scope of where things are. There are a few worlds called the Primes that are sort of the capitals of the sector, and they'll wind up in a different place every time you play. So, Syndicate is a route building game, so you'll be building different routes every time you play. Kat, do you want to go over some of the rules of this fine Phoenix Syndicate?
Sure. There's sort of two main parts. There's the game board, and you're spreading your influence throughout the galaxy that way by placing your agents or even creating bases. There's also the guild board, where there are these 5 different guilds, one for each of the major resource types in the galaxy. Let's move it a little bit this way, and you can see it better.
Yeah, using the small cam.
Great. And as you gain influence in the guilds, that's also a way to score points and a way to spread your influence and win the game. So on your turn, you will take one of 5 possible actions as denoted on the bottom of your action card.
Now I'm going to make the small thing go back.
Yeah, that's fine. 4 of these actions... oh, you can't see my action card. I am beautifully gesturing.
No, I'll point to what you're doing.
Great. So 4 of the actions have little action totems. Once you take that action, the action totem moves off it, and you cannot do that action again until you take the scheme action, which is sort of a refresh for everything. So every turn you choose one of your available 5 actions. You perform it. You spread out. You gain resources. How in depth do you want me to go here?
Oh, I don't know.
Do you want me to go through all 5 actions real
Oh,
quick?
yeah. We're
Okay.
going to go through all the
Yeah.
actions. So like Kat was saying, we, our objective is to spread our network of agents across the galaxy, and that's what these little tokens are going to show. Obviously, we're using prototype bits. These will all be nice, shiny plastic things with pointy edges, and I don't actually know what.
Put your eye out.
There'll be absolutely great choking hazards for small children.
Yay! Do not eat an agent. Oh no, it rolls. At the beginning of the game, we'll wind up with a couple of agents in play, and also these big tokens which represent ships. I'm just gonna fix that real quick. So we'll start out with a little foothold in the sector, and we'll be basing where we start off on some of these cards called trade routes. So trade route cards each depict 3 different systems that are on the board. This one's Eureka Prime, Faux Colony, and Vosk Outpost. And we're going to pick one of these to be our starting trade route. And typically we'll put our agents on a couple of those planets based on it being a good trade route. The interesting thing, so these are kind of like tickets from Ticket to Ride, but they are publicly available for everyone to see. So if I pick this trade route at the start of the game, Kat's going to get to see where I'm going, which is important for 2 reasons. 1, good to know where I'm going, but 2, when I turn in this trade route, Kat is also going to get points for having agents on those systems. So you have an incentive to sort of piggyback off of what your opponent's doing in order to effectively score points and outmaneuver them. So with that little bit of background out, let's actually go through the actions.
Sure. So, like I said, I'm going to actually start at the end with the scheme action,
right,
which is your refresh action. So, you do some number of the other actions, you remove those action totems, and then when you're ready, it can be after 1 action, it can be after all 4 actions, you will take the scheme action and refresh. For each of the markers that you place back, you will gain 1 black resource cube. So there are 5 colors of resources normally, and then there are these black cubes which are wild. They can be used to represent any color resource at any point during the game when you need it. So you take the scheme action, you refresh your action totems, you get some black cubes for your resource pile, and then most of the actions in the game have 2 or 3 things going on, all of which are optional. So you can sort of choose what the best, what parts of the action you want to take and what the best goal is. So after you take your scheme and refresh everything, if you want, you can choose to acquire to pay for one of these trade route cards. And of course you want to get more trade routes. That's the major way of winning the game, is by acquiring trade routes for yourself and later redeeming them, hopefully before your opponents can get on the same planets. But the downside is that you do have to pay for them. You have to match the color of the trade route, you have to pay that color of cubes. I can't acquire this red trade route card unless I'm willing to pay 4 red cubes. The advantage of buying trade routes, besides just having the trade routes and being able to score points from spreading out in the galaxy, is that you also get to move up in the guild when you use the scheme action. Every time you move up in the guild, you're getting closer to one of these 5 bonus actions, which during the game is great because it lets you do really cool bonus stuff that just will give you a leg up. And the nice thing is, once you reach a bonus action, you immediately put another agent in the guild at the bottom level. So you can always, you have a lot of flexibility. You can keep doing bonus actions. And
Sorry, I was trying to make a better image work. It didn't work.
Alas. So I use my scheme to buy a trade route, move up in the guild, get a bonus action, potentially. And then at the end of the game, for all of your agents that you have embedded up at the bonus level, you'll get an extra point boost at the very end of the game. So there's an advantage to having a lot of influence in the guild. There's also an advantage to having a lot of influence in the galaxy. You can kind of pick and choose where you want to put your focus for your game. The other actions, Smuggle and Expand, are the 2 actions that have to do with the game board. Smuggle lets you gain resources. It's the main way to do that. You pick up both your ships off the board. You put them down anywhere you've already been. Smuggle doesn't take you anywhere new. but you set them on those locations, and it can be in different locations, it can be in the same location, that's fine. And for each ship, you're going to gain resources. So Chris is showing a card there. That is a planet that is a green planet with a yellow moon, so you get 4 green resources and 2 yellow resources. For me, I've put both of my ships here on a green planet with a blue moon, which means I would get 8 green resources and 4 blue resources.
Lots of cubes.
Or 4 green and 2 blue twice, once for each ship. Meanwhile, so Smuggle, you move your ships first, and then you collect resources. With Expand, you spend resources to open these various gates. I'm going to spend some resources there, and spend some resources there. And obviously, I'm just doing quick gates to show. You would have to pay the actual cost of the gate. So this would be 3 green, or whatever. But after you've opened a bunch of gates, you can move your ships through and place new agents wherever your ships have wound up. So Expand lets you go to new parts of the galaxy, where Smuggle kept you stuck in the parts you've already been to. But Smuggle gives you resources, where Expand you have to spend your resources, which would then, after you've spent them, get discarded back to the main pool.
Yeah, so Smuggle is your primary source of getting new resources.
Absolutely.
You'll get little bits from Scheme and from trade routes and...
here and there, but the major way, you get 12 resources every time you take the Smuggle action.
And one of the most important parts of the game is, because each of the systems is different colors, sometimes the board will have a clumped area where most of the green's in one spot. And if you don't have your agents over there, you're going to be in trouble for trying to get through green gates, even if you're not near there.
I want to get over here, past all these yellow gates, but my only yellow planet is, I guess this produces a little yellow over here. That's not going to be easy for me to afford that giant jump.
Right.
I'm going to have to manage, maybe figure out a different way to get yellow, or maybe even just abandon this plan and go somewhere more suited to my resource manage, the resources I have available. So then the other 2 actions are a little more complicated. So I've mentioned there's agents and then sometimes even bases. Deploy is the action that lets you get a base. And bases are great because they're worth extra points. Whenever one of these trade route cards gets scored, everybody scores for each planet that they're on. Everybody gets 1 point for each agent they have and 2 points for each base they have on that card. Then the person who's redeeming it, the person whose card it was, they get a special bonus. But it behooves me to put bases on planets that are on Chris's cards, because those cards will get scored eventually. My base will score me some extra points eventually.
Right, and like we were saying, you can see what trade routes other people have taken. You can also see what trade routes are coming up in the market. So there's a market of 4 trade routes that you get from the Scheme action. So you can say, oh boy, Cormus Prime is about to be really important. So might be great to sneak in there with a base or just an agent. Because you know those points are going to get scored eventually.
Yeah. So with the deploy action, you get to build a base, and deploy also lets you get a trade route card. You can claim a trade route if it matches a base you already have, which is great because you know that that card will be worth extra points for you. So right. I've got a base on Yak. I could take the card with Yak already on it.
Yeah, so it means that in addition to your base being valuable for points, your bases and your network of bases, in addition and beyond agents, gives you access to grab trade routes more easily from the board. Because if you have no bases and you haven't used deploy for like the first half of the game, you start doing it, you might not be able to find a contract up there, or sorry, a trade route that you want to take.
It's also important to note that while the game is friendly in terms of agents, it's totally fine for both me and Chris to have built agents on this same system. There's only 1 base per system. Once I build a base there, Chris is shut out from ever building a base there.
Yep.
If I build a base on a planet where Chris isn't, he can still come build an agent, but he can never get the base and never get those extra points or extra advantages. The last action is Infiltrate, which is probably the most interesting action, because what it does, Infiltrate lets you take a tech card. So just like there's a sort of bank of trade route cards that everyone can see, there's going to be a bank of tech cards that everyone can see upcoming. And just as Chris showed, when you take a tech card, you tuck it under the matching action, and for the rest of the game, you and you alone get that advantage. So now, every time Chris takes the smuggle action, he's going to be doing extra stuff. He's going to be getting some extra black resource cubes and being able to move his markers around a little extra, and do other good things. So the tech actions can make really powerful combos that will help you sort of find what strategy you want to use to win the game rather than just whatever strategy other people are playing. Additionally, we talked about the guild a little bit with the scheme action. Infiltrate is also the chance to just move up as much as you want in the guild. Or not quite as much as you want, but as much as you want, as many colors as you want.
Yeah, each color will cost you 4 cubes that match it, but they'll get you closer to those bonuses. Did you talk about bonuses yet?
Yeah, I talked a little bit about how they're just during the game, they're good things.
Yeah, so like at the top of the blue one, there's a bonus that says place a base for free, which essentially means every 3 bumps you get in the blue guild, you get to drop a free base somewhere on the board. And that's really cool.
Yeah.
In addition to getting that bonus, since you get to the top of it, you have to put out a new agent token on the guild board. And your supply of 20 agent tokens is what drives the game end. So you get to control your game tempo both by how fast you spread out agents and bases, but also by how fast you advance through the guilds.
Right. And then at the very, very end of the game, you'll have been scoring points throughout the game for redeeming these trade route cards, both the ones you redeem yourself and the ones your opponents redeem where you happen to be on the same planets. At the end of the game, all additional trade routes will get redeemed. It's friendly in that regard. There's no time management aspect. But there will also be a bonus at the very end of the game where you look at how many embedded agents you have, how many agents made it to the bonus slot on the guild boards, and you can get some bonus points there, which can be a very powerful way to win the game. You can get as much as 21 points.
Many points.
Which, in a game where we've been seeing scores of about 40 to 80, a 20-point boost really can make or break the game for someone.
Yep. So yeah, Phoenix Syndicate is going to be on Kickstarter in September.
Yay!
Hooray! We played it lots and lots at Gen Con, and people liked it a whole lot. We have also been playing it lots and lots for the past decade or so. Such is life of game design. But yeah, we're hoping to have it on Kickstarter. We're going to have it on Kickstarter in a few weeks. And then we're hoping to have it out not too long after. This probably won't take a ton of time to print because we're pretty much done with the game. So late this year, early next year, depending on, factories are busy in the 4th quarter because it's the 4th quarter. Ooh. But we don't really anticipate any delays. This should be certainly out by the early conventions next year. And we are hoping people like it a lot.
People liked it at Gen Con. Yeah. All the feedback I got was positive.
One of the most important things about this game for me is that because of the modular board, because of the modular techs, the game really does play differently every time you sit down. And that's something that I've been sort of driving for in game design. It's not too hard to design a game that's a 6 or 7 out of 10 that you can play once and be like, oh, that was fine. This wants to be the game you can come back to 12, 2 dozen, 3 dozen times, over the course of a couple of years and actually delve into. One of those things we used to do with board games a long time ago.
I'm a mathematician. I love game theory. I love solving games. Yeah. I don't love solving games that are for playing. It's not fun to know the optimal strategy every time. I really like that in this game, depending on where the planets are, depending on what cards are showing, depending on what text you get, you're going to be playing something different every time. And sometimes it's going to be real spectacular, and sometimes it's going to be not so spectacular, but it's going to be fun either way.
It's true.
That's what it's about.
How you doing, Alana?
I'm good. That was a really thorough, excellent explanation by Kat. So I'm learning too.
Yay! I taught something like 15 games of this.
Yep.
At Gen Con.
Kat is the expert. So we're gonna tip the table over
Excellent.
all the
Are there
pieces gonna
any
fall on the
questions
floor.
from the audience?
Right. Do you have anything gameplay-wise that people were asking about, or
Nothing yet.
they just
but
making great comments about Gloopy?
Not enough conversation about Gloopy. I know we can do better. If anyone has any questions about Syndicate or any of the games we're showing off, or just anything in general, feel free, have at it. Give me something to do.
It's true. So we're gonna take a quick break and set up some 1001 Odysseys.
Ooh.
It's a
So
lot of
excited
Odysseys.
to show this off.
Yes. And we're gonna still talk while we do this.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Or maybe I'll put on some jazzy music.
Ooh.
You talk,
Some
I clean
jazzy
up.
space radish.
Jazzy space radish.
A game
gotta
with
say, from
space
Get-
radishes, that just sounds ridiculous.
From Gen Con, I really think the Plum Plim is going to give Gloopy News a run for its money here.
It's true.
At being...
I'm not gonna lie, I love
Which?
I love Gloopy a lot, but Plum Plim is where it's at. I can see the wave of the future, and the wave of the future is radishy.
I am all about that.
Clearly. Boom, boom, boom. Moving all the things around.
Oh, you put on the Odysseys icon. I don't
Oh
have
yeah,
to be
they're not
so-
watching you move all the things around.
I wasn't
They're only
sure.
hearing the vague noises of pieces falling,
Clatter,
and
crush.
clunking around, and kaboink.
Does your
Spawn?
cat tend to bat the cubes around?
Ivy does not like batting cubes. She just likes laying on things. That is the way of Ivy.
I used to play board games at a house where the rule was any piece the cat touched was out of play.
Yep.
Which made for a very interesting dynamic as you tried to get the cat to touch other people's pieces and the pieces you didn't want, while not touching anything.
Oh, we can come down a bit, Cat.
Oh, this, yes.
Yeah. Bring it's down there.
There we go.
Here's some exciting, clunky. Oh, we're descending into the table. Noise is necessary.
Absolutely.
So, 1001 Odysseys. Plum plum.
This map. I just gotta take a moment to make the prayer hands emojis and just be like, this map.
The map's
It's
so good.
It's so pretty.
So yeah,
Ah, it's a Plum Plim!
Plum Plum is also so pretty.
1001 Odysseys is our sort of choose your own adventure in space game that we've also been working on for a couple of years now. And we demoed an episode of it at Gen Con featuring this quite beautiful map of the planet Brumagum. It's interesting color balance. But
We promise the map is gorgeous. If it doesn't look
take a
gorgeous,
brief
check
moment
your
to see what's
computer.
up with that. You can talk amongst yourselves about bananas.
Bananas.
I
And
have-
radishes. A banana radish salad. That'll be
That's
on the menu at Gen Con
a
this upcoming year.
food.
Yeah, that's something.
I feel like the mushiness of the banana with the crispness of the radish would not necessarily work.
Yeah, I might have made a mistake.
It's too late, Alana. You've
I know.
doomed us all.
I'm
That's
just
it.
gonna mess with these video settings.
Oh,
a
that
little
is
bit.
purple, Chris. That's
I
very purple.
know.
Oh, that's yellow. Oh! Oh, no, you had it. You had it. Okay,
Say
that's
when.
much better. That's good.
We're trusting Alana because she's
Oh,
the
no!
graphic designer.
No!
That's the wrong. She didn't say
oh,
when
no,
there.
what happened?
No.
It was terrible.
And in this stream, Chris ruins everything. Oh,
little,
that's good.
little do we know
Yeah,
that
that is
he's
much better.
trying to decide the final color balance for the actual map. So
No.
No,
It
it
was,
hurts me.
no.
The camera was auto white balancing in a way that was not appropriate for our lighting. So there's a much better look at 1001 Odysseys map for Brumagum. So yeah, 1001 Odysseys is a choose your own adventure board game. And what you're going to get in your game box is a bunch of episodes which are on white paper with staples. No, wait.
No.
It'll be in a nice
No.
book.
No. Just
A nice-
wait.
A nicely bound,
nice,
book
perfect bound book full of
with staples.
Full of staples. It's just you open it up and staples pour out on the table. It's great.
Buy our games.
Yes. Professional. Where each episode is going to be comprised of a number of different scenes. So, for example, this episode 4, Blast from the Chloroplast, an excellent plant pun, has 8 different scenes in it. And when you play through the game, you're not actually going to see all of them because you're going to be taking your own unique path through. So, for example, you might go from scene 1 to scene 3 to scene 6 to scene 8 and then get an ending there. Or you might take a different path entirely.
What happens in scene 7? I won't know until I play it again with a different group of friends.
Yes. And even within the scenes you do go to, you might not see every single thing. So one of our big pushes with this is replayability in a way that we haven't seen too much out of most of the story games that are out there. Things like Time Stories and the actual Choose Your Own Adventure game are great, but once you played them once, you're pretty much done with it. You've seen all the things for that mission, that episode, or whatever. And we want people to explore our cool universe and see all the writing we've done and all that neat stuff. So when you go through, you will be going forward, and the game will push you forward in a way that makes you think, oh, hey, what was that thing I just walked by that I missed? I'll have to come back and check that out another time. The mechanics for Odysseys are super awesomely simple. And what we're going to do right now is walk through a little bit of the first scene to show you just how simple they are.
But before we start that,
yes.
Mark Magus is wondering, I need more than one group of friends for this game?
No.
I'll play with you, Magus.
Magus, I said Magus, it's my bad.
It's okay.
Yeah.
He'll forgive you.
It's also Mark with a Q.
We'll play with everyone. We'll be everyone's friends.
You could play with the same group of friends more than once. You could even play by yourself.
So actually, that's one other thing that is interesting about Odyssey as opposed to other Legacy games. One of the great problems in gaming right now is we have to play Pandemic Legacy how many times with the same group that are coming at the same night every week? Odysseys is designed to be independent experiences. These are episodes that are like Star Trek Next Generation episodes. If you miss the one about this planet, you're going to be okay. There's connective story bits, but there's not a hard plot line through all the episodes that you have to be there for every single day. So if you want to hang out for the Plum Plum episode, that's great. If you missed the episode about the Zip Zab, that's neat. You can hear about it another time. It'll be fine. And that's something we actually thought about a lot with this. Because no, it is a problem when
it's hard. It's really, really hard, as an adult with a day job to get the same group of people every week, especially when some of my friends have kids and emergencies and some of my friends have weird work hours, and it's...
So we want you to be able to sit down and have a good time.
Whoever you're with, whenever you're ready for it.
Even if you have no friends or all the friends. So... Who wants to read this first bit?
Oh, I like reading.
You want to read? All right.
Yeah, I'm all about reading.
So, this booklet here, I just want to show it off, is, obviously it's the stapled version, but this is where all of the stories live. And Kat is going to regale us with the beginning of Episode 4.
Episode 4, Blast from the Chloroplast. All is quiet on the Odyssey until the ship needs its routine inspection to continue its journey around the Federation. The mechanic at the Lucky Landing spaceport tells you it should be an easy process. I don't know why they didn't do it when you first arrived in Insula, but it's not that easy. Says the mechanic, your ship is in violation of over 50 environmental regulations. I think I saw thrusters like yours in a museum once. You ask if she could upgrade your ship. Oh, not me, she says. You need the Plum Plim for this one. She hands you the business card of a Plum Plim named Mollia Thagden on Brummagum and slaps a sticker on your ship door. The sticker, she tells you, will alert Federation authorities that your ship is unauthorized for travel anywhere but Brummagum in order to make the necessary repairs. Back on board the Odyssey, the main view screen suddenly glows purple and red, displaying the seal of the Federation. This can mean only one thing, an official message from Federation headquarters. The message plays and a robotic voice shouts, Notice to captain and crew. We have been informed that vehicle emissions testing is overdue for the Odyssey. To renew registration of this vehicle, it must comply with Federation-mandated emissions requirements. Oops. There's really no way you can avoid this, is there? The message continues. Proceed directly to nearest inspection facility under penalty of law. Nearest facility to your location is... The recording pauses, and a completely different robotic voice completes the sentence. On Brummagum. To Brummagum it is. Then there's some actions for us. We have to add the Brummagum map to our play area, which we've already done. We need to open our passport, which Chris was showing off, to Episode 4, Scene 1. And then we need to continue to Scene 1, A Good Mechanic. That's in the book for me.
So, this passport right here, which is also printed on white paper and staples, which is totally the final production value, is...
No!
Don't scare Alana like that.
Alana, we're not going to a factory. We're just going to Staples with this.
Perfect.
The passport is your save file for the game. So we're talking about other legacy games where you write in things and you change components, you open up things, and you mark up the game board. In 1001 Odysseys, the only thing you affect is the passport. And because of that, the game can come with a couple of them. And you can even download PDFs for more after. So that the more times you want to play an episode, you can just, get more passports. And it has, lots of lines in here to record all the things that go on during the episode that we'll get to in a second. So the next thing we do is actually read the scene introduction.
Yeah. Scene 1, A Good Mechanic. You land in the small village at the end of CERN and call the mechanic on the card. Sure, I can fit you in tomorrow, she says over some raucous din. Too much to finish tonight. Just come by my shop in the morning and I'll help you out. You park the Odyssey next door and enjoy a restful night of natural gravity. In the morning, you look for the local Department of Multidimensional Vehicles in the mechanics yard. The shop in front has a bright, friendly sign which says, Pollitt Ship Service, spaceships, race ships, and other vegetable vehicles. You see ships in various states of disarray along with a large pile of leaves and tubers. All you need to do is find your mechanic, pay her the fee, and wait for her to upgrade your ship. And then there's some more text. We have to add location card BG01 to the map, add quest 1, find a mechanic to work on the Odyssey to your passport. So there's the location card, which if you hand to me, I'll add it to the map.
Yeah, so location cards actually fit in to their spots on the map because they match the artwork on the background. It just sort of drops in there.
It's a fun puzzle. So add quest 1 in the mechanic. To the passport. So Chris is going to do that.
Add quest 1, find a mechanic.
Then we're going to add quest card 1 to our quest board, which you can just see here.
I'm going to bring it over here.
Oh, okay. Which you can just see in the close-up cam.
Whoop. I'm going to zoom out the close-up cam a little bit.
The slightly less close-up cam.
The slightly less close-up cam is now over here. So the quest boards are where all of your cards for the game go. So you said add quest 1 to the quest board? So each quest board corresponds to one of the quests that you write about in your passport guide. And it's going to tell you how to do things in the game world. So what else did it tell me to do?
It also tells you to put locked cards in slots 2, 3, and 4.
Alright.
And then it says to add an action card. Action card E, talk, to quest card 1.
With the contact edge.
Yes, the contact edge.
So anyways, you can see that that kind of works. We've added our quest card here, but there's also an action card tucked underneath it. And what that means is this is an action we can do to advance our progress in this quest. And this is where the actual game begins, where we get to start making choices. We have quest 1, find a mechanic, as I recorded in the passport. We can talk about it, and we can do it any place we can find this little arrow on the map. And our location card that we just put down, BG02, has that matching arrow symbol on it. So what you do is you combine an action with a quest
E1.
And a location. So in this case, we'll go to the booklet and look up blurb E1 BG02.
I found it.
And that's the thing that happens next. And that is the entirety of the gameplay rules. At any time, you can look at any of your active quests with their active actions, the locations you've got access to, and you just merge them all together to find the story thing in the booklet to continue with.
Would you like me to read
Oh, yeah,
E1
go ahead.
BGO2? Excellent. Last night, the village bustled with the whirring and sawing of plum-plim hands. Now, every screwdriver wrench sits motionless. No one has even switched on the workshop lights yet. A violet plum-plim wearing a pink bandana dozes on a patch of moss next to the shop. Her name tag says she is Molly Thagden. She must be your mechanic. You gently shake her arm to wake her up, but she only looks up for a moment with her eyes still half shut. Not now, Grandpa, she murmurs. I'm late for my biology test. She falls back asleep, drooling. You knew the Plum-Plum enjoyed their leisure time, but not this much. You wonder why a highly recommended technician would fall asleep on the job. And hey, we can now set Quest 1, Slot 1 to Observation. So we're putting something in there besides the locked card.
Sorry, I was fixing the zoom on our on our secondary camera. This guy here has 4 slots for cards. And whoops, I knocked them all over. Let's push this up here. So you can see there are 4 slots for momentum cards. We put in locks for 3 of them when the quest started. So it just said put an observation card into a momentum card slot 1. There are lots of different types of momentum. There's observation, biology, athleticism, and whenever you do something in the game world, it's often going to make progress on one of the quests based on the kind of thing you did. Like if we had just done a biology experiment, which
on the sleeping Plum-Plim, which seems
yes,
ethically dubious at best.
Then maybe we would have gotten a biology momentum, because the game's sort of tracking what things you've been doing.
We observed that she's asleep.
Exactly. It was very simple. We just observed. So the mechanic with the quest board is whenever it gets filled up, whether it's with normal cards or locked cards, you just have to have a card in every slot, you go into the booklet and you get to make progress on that quest. And what you do is you just read across. We look up blurb Q1 OLLL. And you can see that here in the booklet, Kat's looking up Q1 OLLL.
It says continue to X108, so I will continue to X108.
You shall.
Your mechanic, who was supposed to upgrade the Odyssey, has fallen asleep and won't wake up. Maybe someone around here can recommend another mechanic. If you can't find a mechanic near the spaceport, perhaps someone near the busy town center of Pollitt or the residences of Watergum Acres can recommend a good mechanic. So now the action text, we have to add a location card BG03 to the map. We have to remove action card E talk from quest card 1. We can't do that card anymore.
Right.
But we get to add action card B, talk with the passerby icon, to quest 1. So we have a new action on quest 1. And we can remove the locked card from quest 1 slot 2. So it's no longer full. Eventually that slot will get filled and will, again, immediately trigger an event in the book and read it.
Right. So we have a new icon over here on our quest. And as you can see, it's this little speech bubble. Cam, you want a location BGO3? So what I was saying is, on the locations, they also have these icons. So in this case, we're going to be able to do a talk action with regard to Quest 1 at any of these locations.
Including these ones as well.
Yeah, these ones also have that same icon, which you can now see because it's not blurry anymore. Amazing.
It's trying.
So here's where the choice part of the game comes in, because Chris and I, or whoever else is playing, can make the decision. Do we want to, we're trying to find a new mechanic, do we want to stick around the mechanics yard where we already are? Do we want to go to Watercome Acres? Do we want to go to the intergalactic spaceport? Mm-hmm. It's up to us. And
yeah. And our general goal or drive is to make progress in these quests by doing things that result in cards getting placed down there, because that will further the story. So let's do one more blurb. Let's open B1 BGO2.
B1 BGO2.
So we're going to go to the mechanics yard. Something else we're sort of glossing over right now. There's a location guide that tells you more information about all these places, but since we're just doing a quick little demo,
All right.
We'll just do some story bits.
B1BG02. Two young elements lean over the service counter. Mino and Minnow at your service, they say. You ask them for a mechanic who can certify your ship according to the Federation Environmental Statute 4E 1950. Oh, says Mino. You're humans? I can't believe we get to meet you in person. Your ship is ancient. I bet it doesn't even have an in-flight juice bar, says Minnow, oblivious to your protest that the Odyssey is, in fact, state-of-the-art back on Earth. The two elements strike a pose clearly intended to instill confidence and awe. We can fix your ship, they say. Minnow and Mino, apprentice mechanics. Off we go. You overhear their conversation as they walk into the far back rooms of the shop. Hey, Minnow, you know how Malia keeps saying only the Plum mechanics can work on emissions repairs? Mino asks as she starts grabbing tools. I know, says Minnow. It'll be so fun to prove how far we've come. And then we add item A, work order, to our passport. And we set quest 1, slot 3 to conversation.
I never did that. When I played at Gen Con, I did not take this option at all.
So what did it say?
Set quest 1, slot 3 to conversation.
That removed a lock, which is interesting, because it didn't actually fill up the slot we wanted to fill up to make progress, but it's done something.
We overheard their conversation about how they probably should not fix our ship.
Exactly. So all the choices you make are both going to sometimes make progress towards the quest going forward, or sometimes make progress towards weird things happening. Because when we finish this, we're going to now wind up reading Q1OLC instead of something else. So your decisions sort of impact all of the tree of things that go on. So yeah, that is 1001 Odysseys. We are going to be kickstarting this game on November 8th, when we will be taking a trip out to the Penny Arcade stream to show it off there. We'll also be potentially at BGCon. We will definitely be at PAX Unplugged. And also just hiding inside the winter when it totally won't snow. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Mark is wondering, wouldn't you get more story if you make lots of unproductive choices?
So there aren't too many unproductive choices to make. Many of them will fill the momentum slots in a way that pushes you forward. One of the things we've been working on with the branching is making sure that everything pushes the story forward in some way, whether or not it's the way you thought it would unfold or wanted it to unfold. Because yeah, one of the issues that you can wind up with in a choose your own adventure game is, do I try to maximize hitting every single bit of every corner and every cranny and nook before going forward, or do I do the cool thing? And it's never fun to be put in the situation where you're like, okay, if I do the correct thing, I'm going to lose out on getting to check these 4 different areas. So we want to take away that bad feel and make it so that everything you do is neat. Yeah. This is arguably a failure, but it's also interesting.
It's definitely interesting. I'm invested. I want to know what's going to happen to our ship with these young, non-plum mechanics. Also, spoiler alert, I just looked in, and of the other 3 potential locations we could have gone to, you'll notice we're essentially, action-wise, we're at a dead end. We have to go now to another one of those actions anyway. There's one more that's another dead end, and then the other 2 would fill our card, no matter which one we took, in slightly different ways. I didn't bother to read all the differences there, because that's cheating.
Sneaky.
But we would be about to have more advancement in the story and more advancement in the plot.
Yep. So yeah, that is 1001 Odysseys. We're going to move on to our 3rd game of the night. A one-deck Galaxy.
Ooh.
Woo!
But now we're going to make more vague noises of moving things around. Ooh,
oh
what
my
is
god,
it?
that
Is
is
it dice?
Snake. Sounds like a snake to me. Like a rattlesnake. Rattling.
This is now a radio play.
How many episodes are in the base game for Odysseys?
I can't hear you over the sound of this horse.
How many
So-
episodes?
But
We're going to look to be putting probably about 4 episodes in the box. An episode has about 80 pages of content in it. And to do a single playthrough will take probably about 2 or 3 hours. But to do all of them, all of the scenes in all the different ways, could be as many as 8 or so hours per episode. And it depends. I mean,
Depends on how
if
efficient
you're
you
playing
are
alone
getting-
and reading to yourself, not out loud, you're going to blow through it much faster because it's text. And however long it takes you to read 80 pages, that's how long it will take you to do all the things. But for groups, we found that at Gen Con, in an hour and a half demo, they got through 3 scenes or so. So, yeah.
Any other Odyssey questions?
I think that's it for
nope,
the Odysseys.
not currently.
Excellent.
Yeah, we went, originally there were going to be 12 episodes, but they were all much shorter. What we decided to do was condense the ideas we had into bulkier episodes that have lots of little scenes in them. I think our first plan was to have 12 one-hour episodes, which is roughly equivalent to 3 to 4 hour episodes.
Yep.
Cool.
All right, how about a table with some galaxy on it? And boy, the camera doesn't like any of this. We're going to have to lower this down some more.
Even closer.
Do.
Don't get too close to the Neeble Woopers.
Oh no!
Ah.
It happened. Alright, let me adjust our white balance some more to make Alana cry. How are we looking? Is that pretty much okay?
Yeah, you just have like it's pretty glary.
I'm gonna drop
That's
one.
it's a little dark. Oh no!
That's too much.
Oh my god.
Yeah, none of the levels are good.
Alright.
If you back at the bonus level on Kickstarter, we will include your very own Alana that you can make cry by.
Just shine lights on things and use
Oh.
colored pencils to draw on characters. It'll be great.
Sometimes Chris likes to troll me, and he'll send me like a prototype of something in like hot pink and neon green, and he's like, "There, it's done. It's perfect."
Done.
Hot pink and neon green sounds great to me.
Expert
The
work.
80s can't have been wrong.
We should have printed out the Timto link with the new artwork. But such is life. So here we have One Deck Galaxy, which will be coming to Kickstarter in February of the new year. We would put them all out on Kickstarter at the same time, but apparently that's a bad plan. Hey, we have 3 great games coming out. We didn't. We went into Gen Con, with these 3 new games to demo, being like, all right, people will like at least one of them, and we'll kickstart that one first. The problem we had is that people liked all 3 of them a whole lot more than I was even expecting.
It's just so annoying when people enjoy our games and
Yep.
want to give us money for them.
It's the worst. So here we are. We've got 3 games that are all pretty much ready to kickstart, so we're going to spend more time on the artwork for Galaxy since it's got a lot of little pictures we got to draw. Yes, as you can see, the Felici is image loading still.
I'm glad.
So yeah, One Deck Galaxy is obviously a successor to the One Deck Dungeon line. And it is set in space, as you may have guessed from the title. What you may not have guessed from the title is that One Deck Galaxy is set in the same area of space as 1001 Odysseys. You can see that the Elements card here is the same as the Elements Mino and Minnow that we met in Scene 1. 1001 Odysseys tells a story of the mature Federation, and by mature I mean they've been around a while, not that they're actually mature, because they're all goofballs. One Deck Galaxy is from a time where the Federation doesn't exist yet. This is all of these races' first forays into space, adventuring out into the wild unknown. As such, there are no humans in this game, because the humans are not anywhere near Insula yet. They will not show up for a very long time.
approximately 1,001.
Time units.
Yeah.
You don't know what the time unit is.
I don't know what the time unit is.
4 years. So anyways, in One Deck Galaxy, you portray, instead of a hero, one alien species. And the 4 that we had in our demo set were the Felici, the Elements, the Tim Tillowinks, and the Zibzab, of which we have pictures for none of them. But keep in mind, they're cool. The Elements we have a picture for. Much like One Deck Dungeon, your hero-ish card has icons on the left edge, which correspond to the colors of dice you will have access to. Here's some dice for you, Kat.
Thank you.
In addition, instead of health, there is a symbol for morale. Because it's not like you're getting beat up by monsters and losing health. That'd be pretty dark. Well, they murdered 1/3 of your population.
Yeah.
Lose a heart.
Aw, I feel sad now.
Yeah, no, that's not good.
We're not making a genocide game. That's
But anyways, no. In the health slot is a token called morale, which is your currency for using skills, which are called technologies. The other core difference is that instead of going into a dungeon, which would make no sense in space, unless it was like an asteroid with a hole in it, just land there and it's actually a worm. Oh no!
I think Star Wars did it already.
Every time you play, you'll be facing off with an adversary card. And that's where this Neeble-Woober colony fleet, Neeble-Woobers are also in the Federation. Spoiler alert, they turn out to be not such jerks after all. They're still kind of jerks. And this adversary card drives the mechanics of the game you play. It does more to each game than a One Deck Dungeon boss does. One Deck Dungeon bosses add some wild effects and give you extra boxes to fill up. The adversary cards in One Deck Galaxy actually affect the turn structure of the game significantly. But we'll get to that in a minute. So what you're doing is going after colony cards, or location cards rather. And these location cards look fairly similar to the dungeon cards you see in One Deck Dungeon. You can see there are colored boxes on them with numbers in them. The difference is, instead of facing a card once, you're going to be making progress over it gradually. So let's just jump in and play through a couple of turns. So every turn in One Deck Galaxy, you're going to go through 4 different phases, and they're actually listed at the bottom of the adversary card. Discover, Gather, Action, and Cleanup. During the Discover phase, our people are going to look at the sky with telescopes and be like, hey guys, I found some cool stuff. You should go explore it. And we're going to flip over 1 card from the deck into our Explored Locations area.
Woohoo!
And
we found Draconis 4.
Ooh. And if there are less than 2 cards at this point, we're going to flip over another card. Because they're like, you only know about one thing, you should know about more things. So there are 2 cards face up in front of us, Draconis 4 and Pavonis 6. I invented some really cool names for this based on Star Control Worlds.
Do they all rhyme?
They might. And on each of these cards are some dice boxes you can fill up. And so, yeah, also during the Discover phase, the Neeble-Woobers make a progress, which I'll get to after. So now we're going to go to Gather. So during the Gather phase, we take our dices, and we roll them all, making loud noises to the screen. Ooh.
But isn't that a satisfying sound?
It is.
That was my favorite.
Satisfying is 20 dice.
Oh my god, so many.
Such dice.
It was just the best thing at Gen Con, walking past all of the One Deck tables and just like the constant sound of dice hitting the table. So good.
It's great. So we've got all of our dice here. And we haven't even picked a card to go after, because in One Deck Galaxy, you don't go after 1 card a turn. You roll all your dice, and then you get to decide what you want to do with them. So the simplest thing you can do with your dice during the action phase, which is where we are now, is you can fill up one of the boxes using the same rules you would for One Deck Dungeon. This yellow box with an 8 in it can take any number of yellow dice, and they just have to total up to be larger than 8. These little boxes have to have the right colored boxes, right colored dice, and be equal to or higher than the number in the box. But when you fill it up, there's going to be a symbol over here to the right, and this one says if you have 8 yellow, you get this little circle thing here. Cool thing is the back of the cards for One Deck Galaxy have a circle on the left and 2 connected circles on the right, and these serve as progress cards. So what we've done by filling up that 8 box is make 1 progress towards completing Draconis 4. And these dice go away to the general supply. In the bottom left of the card, there is a number showing how many progress we need to make to complete the card. So we need to do that several times. You can even do the same box more than once each turn if we had lots of yellow dice, which we don't. But, much like One Deck Dungeon, we can combine wrong colored dice to make a black die equal to the lower of the 2. So we can make this exciting black 4 here, combine it with our yellow 4, and make another progress.
Woo!
Look at
Yay.
that.
2
We're
progress
so
already.
Cool. But sometimes we won't have anything else to do. We've got these 5s and a 1 and a 3. Yeah, that's where techs and other things come in. So why don't you re-roll your 1 and see what you can do? So when you're using a skill, it's 3.
Okay.
That's good.
Yeah.
So each of the skills has a morale cost on the left of it, which means that when you use that skill, you place a morale token on it to both show that you've used that skill up for the turn and that you've used up that morale for the turn. So you've sort of got a budget on how many skills you use instead of transforming dice like you do in Dungeon. So we got a 3, which is somewhat about the same. We can't fill in any of these boxes.
Not useful.
Or actually we could, but we're not going to.
Too much blue.
Too much blue. Instead of experience cards in Galaxy, we have a card on each side of us, the Fleet Logistics card and the Research Lab card. And what these do is they let us spend the dice we didn't get to use in interesting ways. The Research Lab is how we get science cards, and it consumes runs. So if I had a 1 and a 2, I could get 1 progress in the Research Lab. The Fleet Logistics card consumes pairs, and it lets you get a ship for every pair or 2 ships for every 3 of a kind. So here we've got 2 5s and 2 3s.
Ho ho.
So, Kat, why don't you make some fleets?
I'm going to make 2 spaceships then.
2 spaceships. And on the bottom of the card, you can see that each progress is equal to a science symbol or a spaceship symbol. And these are useful for a number of ways. Some cards just want them. Yeah.
So this card, to make progress on this card, for every 3 spaceships we spend, we can make 2 connected progress.
Pretty cool. But also, when we complete... well, wait.
But wait.
When we complete a world, we will need to spend fleets to actually colonize it. And if you want it as a tech, you'll have to spend science. So...
Hey, look! We completed that world. It's got 3 progress on it.
How did that happen? That's amazing.
We definitely did that this turn.
Would you like to take it as a colony, also known as an item in One Deck Dungeon?
I sure would. My colony cost is 1 spaceship for each colony I already have.
Ah, that would be nothing. But we're playing against the Nibelwuber colony fleet. And the Nibelwuber colony fleet has its own set of icons on the left here. And for every pink that it has, and there's a rule card that says this, your cost for fleets to colonize a world goes up by 1. Oh no.
So I gotta spend 1 of my fleets that we just gained into the discard pile to take this as a colony. But on my next turn, I get to roll 2 yellow dice, which will be useful because we were hurting for them.
Yeah, and all the progress we made previously goes in the discard pile too. So
when you take the card,
yeah,
it stays from turn to turn.
So as you go through and more things go out, you're going to wind up reshuffling the deck. Unlike Dungeon, this doesn't immediately result in another level of the dungeon you go into. Each adversary has an effect that happens when you reshuffle. And the Nibelwugers says, add a progress here, plus a progress every 2 morale the Nibelwugers have. You're probably wondering how they get more morale. What the Nibelwuber colony fleet is doing is they're trying to colonize all the worlds before you do. And like I said, every turn they're going to get 1 progress here. As they get more progress, they're going to get closer to stealing stuff. During the gather phase, if they've got 5 or more progress, they discard all of it. And they take one of the planets from the middle, and I forget the rule, because we changed it 8 times during Gen Con. So I'm just going to say the most expensive planet, because that's terrible. And you can see they tuck it under themselves, just like we would a colony. And now they've got all these extra icons, which are going to make our lives worse in every possible way. It's going to be super.
We have to spend like 2 or 3 ships to get another colony for ourselves.
Yup.
Spend a lot of science to get some techs. It's bad all around.
In addition, if you get to the gather phase and there's 4 or more locations out, which means we've been doing things too slow, they're going to get an extra progress. So the slower you go, the faster they start stealing worlds. When they get to 3 colonies, they're going to say, you know what, this is going pretty well. Let's flip this over into phase 2, which they become more red and menacing.
Dun, dun, dun.
And that just sort of ramps up all the nastiness that happens. And when they get to 6, the game's over. So your goal before that happens is to amass 50 points of value worth of technologies, colonies, and upgrades. Obviously, some of these things are still due to change. This was the alpha prototype we brought to Gen Con. But the general concept of gradually colonize and acquire worlds is definitely working well. And like I said, the adversary changes every time you play. So the other adversary we're testing out is something called the Hungry Nebula. And instead of colonizing planets, the Hungry Nebula starts just removing cards from the deck every time you reshuffle. And every time it gets progress. Which means the deck slowly thins out. When the deck runs out, the game's over. So each of the adversaries behaves totally differently. What were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say, so with the Hungry Nebula, your goal, those 50 points you need to win the game, you're on a time limit of can you get the points before the Nebula eats your deck.
Yep.
Takes the
Very stressful.
It is. So yeah, One Deck Galaxy is still under development. We have to make more cards and things. And it will be on Kickstarter in February. Our goal is to release it at Gen Con next year.
Groovy.
Hopefully.
I love that the fleet logistics and the research lab sort of, they give you a lot more flexibility with your dice, especially when you have a poor roll.
Yep.
It's nothing worse than in dungeon rolling a bunch of 1s and 2s and knowing you've wasted the entire turn because no matter what your skills are, you got nothing you could do.
Yeah, one of the core design principles I wanted to go with this is to make it a little bit more crunchy of a game so that you have more control. There's still random as an element, but it's less of a controlling factor as a gentle shove.
You might not be able to do the things you want to do, but there's always things you can do.
Yep. So yeah,
JP
that,
is...
Oh, what?
JP's wondering the projected enemies for ODG. Does it have enemy cards?
Well, the adversaries, you mean? The other ones? We haven't decided what else we're going to do yet. I have some ideas kicking around, but I don't want to spill them just yet.
Is it going to come with 4 or 5? Like
yeah, it'll have like 4 or
Game
5 civs and 4 or 5 adversaries for good variety. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. People liked it a lot at Gen Con. And yeah, so that is all of our games.
Yay!
It's all the stuff we have to show off.
Woohoo!
Yay, we did it. So thanks to everyone who came out to watch, and for everyone watching on YouTube later. We hope you check this stuff out when it is on Kickstarter later this fall and or winter.
September 20th for Phoenix Syndicate.
Yep.
Soon.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Wait, I got a question.
Yeah.
Will the ODG box be the same size as One Deck Dungeon? That's what
roughly.
we're planning, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
It'll probably be these slightly thicker boxes that we had for the second printing wave. They're like a 1/4 inch taller to fit all the dice in.
Yeah.
But yeah, we want to have that small profile that you can fit in the bag very easily. Because that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Dice.
Fun for
More dice.
So, lots of stuff coming out. Everyone's very busy.
It's true. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us, and we will see you again soon.
Yay!
Yay! Bye, everyone.